for about a few months. We'll say, from Judgment Day till SummerSlam. So that way Test can at least, get some time to just, rest, and he can take some time to just feel better. And Scott Steiner has this program with, Stacy Keibler, where we're going to make that. I know that this might seem not as PG, but Scott Steiner is definitely one of those guys who wants to be just this guy who thinks that he can get any woman. And obviously he humiliates Stacy, just, has her, roll his luggage around or hold the door for him, or just basically treating her like major trash. Just get that nuclear heat going. So that way people, when they see who beats Scott Steiner, they're just going to be like, oh, thank God, somebody finally beats him. And do you remember when Rodney Mack had that white boy challenge going on? Well, we're actually eliminating that, and we're giving it to Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner's just basically making it out to be this deal where we're seeing if somebody can actually survive Scott Steiner for 3 minutes, and that he would give $250,000 to the person that does that. Have a couple jobbers here and there, have some legitimate baby faces like Rob Van Dam, Booker T, so many of these guys coming out trying to win that money, but also shut Scott Steiner up. Nobody is able to do it. Scott Steiner finds a way to either overpower them or finds a way to cheat to win. We go into SummerSlam, and Scott Steiner is saying, this time I'll be gracious enough. I'll make it 5 minutes that, they can try to beat me down. And who makes his long-awaited return? None other than Test. So Test comes out, he accepts the challenge, and Scott Steiner is just completely flabbergasted. Stacy Keibler is, of course, just super happy. And Scott Steiner and Test have a really good matchup, up to the point where it reaches 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Test is just about ready to knock out Scott Steiner with the big boot. Scott Steiner ducks it, hits a low blow on Test. Referee calls for the bell. Supposedly he survived the challenge, but Scott Steiner said, no, you have to actually beat me in order to get this. So Scott Steiner, takes the heel way out, and he just leaves. And we build up another matchup between the two of them at Bad Blood. Now Test is just really livid at the fact that Scott Steiner is just getting away so much. So he says, I want a match with you, and I want you to put Stacy Keibler's services back on the line. Scott Steiner is hesitant, and Test says, if you beat me at Bad Blood, then I will retire. He will be like, the whipping boy for Scott Steiner, just building it up like that. So Scott Steiner eventually agrees. Bischoff says, he can't trust the two of them to, keep it in the confines of the ring. So he has the matchup inside of a steel cage. We have Scott Steiner versus Test in a cage match at Bad Blood. And it is brutal. We see Scott Steiner, just throwing Test around. We see him just, beating down on Test. Test fights back with all this resiliency, all this heart. Scott Steiner is just basically getting all of this momentum, and Test is just fighting back every single which way that he can. Scott Steiner actually locks in the Steiner recliner, and looks like Test is about to tap out, but then Stacy Keibler gets involved, and Scott Steiner's, just yelling at Stacy, get down, just, blah, blah, blah. Test hits a big boot, and he's just saying that's not enough. So he hits a second big boot, and Test just like, no, we're not going to do it like that. So he grabs Scott Steiner, just throws him into the cage. Scott Steiner just bounces off of it and gets hit with another big boot by Test. 1, 2, 3. Scott Steiner has suffered his first loss. Well, first loss since coming to Raw. And Test gets the services back of Stacy Keibler. Now, we basically go into a final program with them a little bit later on at Armageddon, but we're going to save that just for a little bit later. So, Scott Steiner needs to have a little program just to still build up a little bit of that momentum. So, here's what I'm thinking we do. Scott Steiner wins a Battle Royal to become the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship at Survivor Series. And who's the champion at the time? None other than Goldberg. Yeah, so we're basically replacing the whole Triple H Goldberg deal, and we're putting Scott Steiner versus Goldberg as the Raw main event of the Survivor Series. So built that up, and Scott Steiner finds a way, to again overpower Goldberg. And it's just one of those moments where a lot of people are just like, "Oh my gosh, never thought I'd see Goldberg just getting taken down like this." And there could be I would not do this, but I could definitely see them doing a little bit of inclusion of Evolution coming in, being down Goldberg, and Scott Steiner pick up the scraps, looking like he's a bit of a badass. But the thing is, I really want it to be more just Scott Steiner looking strong. He's a heel, but he is also just this guy who just really tough, and he's just really freakish. So we have Scott Steiner versus Goldberg at Survivor Series, and it looks like Scott Steiner is actually going to pick up the victory. He actually accidentally knocks out the referee, hits a low blow to Goldberg, locks in the Steiner recliner, and it looks like Goldberg passes out. After that happens, Scott Steiner is trying to see if the referee is going to come to, and he notices, nope, it's not going to happen. So he goes out, gets his signature lead pipe, and he is just about to hit Goldberg in the head with it. But then we see Test. He comes out, he grabs the pipe, and he's basically just saying, no, that is not going to happen. You are not going to do that. Scott Steiner is, pissed. He's reeling. He's just yelling at Test, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Scott Steiner turns, bam, spear, bam, jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. Scott Steiner is beaten by Goldberg. He gets his world title matchup in because, after doing a program like that, he definitely deserves some payoff. So this is how we're going to end Scott Steiner's year, with the rematch between Test and Scott Steiner at Armageddon. This time it'll be a last man standing matchup. Nothing on the line. Just the two of them are going to just go at it, and they're going to just absolutely maim each other. We see Scott Steiner, laying down suplexes. He even suplexes Test through the barricade. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. He just picks up Test, T-bone suplexes him through barricades, just trying his hardest to keep Test down. We see Test, use Scott Steiner's signature lead pipe. Scott Steiner still able to somehow get up. Test is just hitting big boots. Scott Steiner able to get up. Scott Steiner's hitting everything that he can. He even hits his suplex pile driver. It's not enough. Scott Steiner is trying everything that he can to just keep Test from getting up. So Test goes in for another big boot. Scott Steiner hits a low blow. He grabs his pipe, cracks Test over the head with it again, and this time he locks in a Steiner recliner using that lead pipe on Test. It's just a brutal 6-shot spot where we see basically Test's eyes almost bulging out of his head. He's choking for air. I know this seems a little bit brutal, but at the same time, it does work to have Scott Steiner as a heel, and that pipe is basically his baby. So Scott Steiner is able to choke Test out, and Test unfortunately cannot make the 10 count. Scott Steiner ends the year with a big victory over Test. So from there, it shouldn't be too hard to really book Scott Steiner. Now, originally I did have planned to have Scott Steiner hold the Intercontinental title and then either have him drop him to Rob Van Dam or to Test, but I felt like the prestige of the title would probably get tarnished if I put it on Scott Steiner for the sole reason of a random storyline, so I decided not to go down that route. But having Scott Steiner at this point, he would definitely be a huge upper mid-card guy who can provide great promos. He can provide really good matches to which people really want to see him get his ass kicked. And he also will be that guy that will be like the second best heel next to Triple H. So that is really how you would probably rebook Scott Steiner. So let me know what you guys think. And hey, let me know if you guys want me to do any other rebookings that you might have suggestions on. Leave them in the comments below. Let me know some of the ideas that you might have when it comes to rebookings, and I'll probably read them on the air. So by all means, guys, thank you so much for joining me here. Be sure to give us a like on our Facebook fan page, facebook.com/changingupthegame. Give me a like on Twitter @RealEffingGame. And be sure to also tune in, guys, later on this week because we'll have so much more fun for everybody. I know I've been doing a lot more wrestling-related stuff, but we are going to be doing some more stuff. I know that this week I want to still talk about some of the issues with Marvel. Got to do a SmackDown Live deal. We have our Friday wrestling show where we cover everything from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Lucha, you name it, we'll talk about it. And then, of course, this week is SummerSlam weekend. NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3 on Saturday and SummerSlam on Sunday. Expect us to do a live reaction deal on our Facebook fan page, you guys. It is going to be absolutely awesome, so definitely tune into that. I will have so many friends that will be coming over, so by all means, check that out. And, yeah, be sure to also check out a lot of these other episodes because there's going to be a lot more surprises coming up. Quick shout out to one of our sponsors, ajsbelts.com. Great places to get great belts for great prices. You cannot get a better deal than at ajsbelts.com. By all means, guys, give them a look up and enjoy. So thank you so much for joining me here. This has been GC Extra with your host, Nate the Effing Great, and I will see you guys later. Have a good one.
I've seen better days, yeah. It's so sad. It's hard to find